There's a silent danger destroying more dreams than failure ever could. Comfort, not pain, not rejection, not struggle. Comfort. Because when life becomes too easy, your mind stops growing. Your hunger disappears. Your discipline weakens. And slowly, without even realizing it, you trade your potential for temporary peace. The most dangerous thing about comfort is that it doesn't feel dangerous. It feels safe. It feels earned. It feels normal. But while you're sitting in the same routine, someone else is evolving, someone else is taking risks, someone else is building the future you once dreamed about. History never remembers the people who stayed comfortable. It remembers the ones who faced uncertainty, embraced pressure, and moved forward even when fear told them to stop. If you stay too comfortable for too long, life doesn't stay still. You fall behind. And one day you wake up realizing your biggest enemy was never the world around you. It was the version of yourself that settled too early. This is the dangerous side of being too comfortable. Comfort feels harmless in the beginning. That's why so many men never realize they are trapped until years have already disappeared. A comfortable life gives the illusion of control, but underneath that comfort, ambition slowly weakens. Men are naturally driven by purpose, challenge, and progress. When those disappear, something inside them begins to fade. The dangerous part is that the outside world may still praise them. They have stability, routines, entertainment, distractions, and enough security to avoid pressure. But deep down, they feel restless because the masculine mind is not designed to stay still for too long. Women often notice this change before men do. A man who stops chasing growth starts losing energy, confidence, and emotional presence. He becomes passive instead of driven. Not because he is incapable, but because comfort removed the necessity to fight for something meaningful. People are inspired by movement, not stagnation. A man becomes attractive when he is connected to a mission larger than his comfort zone. The moment he starts choosing convenience over growth, he slowly disconnects from the strongest version of himself. Comfort then becomes dangerous because it no longer feels like rest, it becomes identity. Routine can quietly destroy a man without making any noise. What starts as structure and stability can slowly become repetition without purpose. Every day begins to look the same, feel the same, and demand nothing new. The human mind adapts quickly, but men especially are wired to feel alive through challenge, progress, and pursuit. When life becomes too predictable, ambition slowly turns into survival mode. A man may still wake up, go to work, pay bills, and smile in public. Yet internally he feels disconnected from the person he once wanted to become. Women often respond more deeply to a man's direction than his comfort. They are drawn to emotional strength, vision, and the sense that a man is moving towards something meaningful. The moment routine replaces growth, his energy changes. He becomes less decisive, less passionate, and less present. That is because purpose creates momentum, and momentum creates confidence. Without movement, potential begins to decay. Many men do not lose their dreams in dramatic failure. They lose them in predictable routines repeated for years. The tragedy is that routine feels productive while slowly killing the hunger that once made them powerful. Certainty feels safe, but safety rarely changes a man's life. Most men wait until they feel fully ready before taking action, believing confidence comes first. In reality, confidence is created after stepping into uncertainty. Growth only begins when a man is willing to face situations where he cannot predict the outcome. That is where character is built. Pressure forces clarity. Risk forces adaptation. Struggle forces maturity. A man who avoids uncertainty may protect his comfort, but he also limits his evolution. The strongest version of him is usually waiting on the other side of fear, not inside familiar routines. Women naturally recognize the difference between a man who hides in uncertainty and a man who can handle the unknown. One seeks comfort to avoid failure, while the other accepts uncertainty because he trusts his ability to grow through it. That trust creates presence, leadership, and emotional stability. People are not inspired by perfection, they are inspired by courage under pressure. When a man keeps choosing certainty, his world becomes smaller. His conversations become predictable. His energy becomes passive. Over time, certainty stops feeling like peace and starts becoming invisible fear disguised as control. The world does not reward those who seek ease. It rewards those who are willing to step into discomfort before they feel ready. Most men misunderstand this truth early in life. They believe success is a result of waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect level of confidence. But discomfort is where every meaningful advantage is created. It forces a man to think sharper, act faster, and grow beyond the limits of his current identity. The men who move forward while still uncertain are the ones who eventually shape outcomes. Women often see this difference in behavior long before results appear. A man who avoids discomfort starts to lose direction, while a man who embraces it begins to develop presence and resilience. That presence is not built in safety, it is built in pressure, failure, and repeated attempts. The masculine mind strengthens when it is tested, not when it is protected. Comfort weakens urgency, but discomfort sharpens it into action. The world responds to movement, not hesitation, and every step outside familiarity becomes a signal of growth that cannot be ignored. Discipline does not collapse in moments of crisis. It erodes slowly when life becomes too easy. A man does not lose discipline because he is weak, but because he is no longer required to use it. When pressure fades, structure starts to feel optional, and small compromises begin to look harmless. Skipped routines, delayed decisions, and reduced effort do not feel like failure in the moment, but they quietly reshape identity over time. The masculine mind is built to respond to resistance, and without resistance, it begins to drift. Men often don't notice this shift until motivation disappears. In comfort, there is no urgency to prove anything, no challenge demanding focus, and no consequence forcing consistency. That is when discipline becomes fragile. A man may still appear stable on the outside, but internally his drive weakens because effort is no longer tied to necessity. Women often sense this change in energy before words can explain it. A disciplined man carries direction, while a comfortable man begins to lose emotional sharpness and presence. Ease creates habits of delay, and delay becomes identity. The dangerous part is that comfort does not announce its damage, it rewards relaxation while slowly removing structure. Discipline is not built in easy conditions, it is maintained through intentional struggle. Without challenge, even strong men begin to lose the rhythm that once defined them. The biggest risk in a man's life is not failure, but the illusion of safety. When everything feels stable, predictable, and under control, a man naturally lowers his guard. He stops questioning his direction because nothing seems urgent enough to challenge it. But psychological safety is deceptive, it removes tension. And without tension, growth slowly shuts down. A man begins to mistake comfort for success, and in that mistake, ambition quietly loses its edge. Men are built to respond to pressure, not permanence. When life demands effort, focus becomes sharp and decisions become intentional. But when life feels too safe, that sharpness fades. Routine replaces hunger. Stability replaces curiosity. Over time, a man may still function, but he stops evolving. Women often recognize this shift earlier than men do. A man who once carried energy, vision, and emotional presence begins to feel emotionally distant, not because he has changed who he is, but because he is no longer being challenged to become more. Safety also creates a subtle fear of risk disguised as wisdom. A man begins avoiding opportunities that carry uncertainty, convincing himself that protecting what he has is more important than building what he could become. But growth does not live inside protection, it lives outside it. The masculine spirit weakens not in danger, but in prolonged comfort. The longer a man stays in a space where nothing demands his best, the more unfamiliar his best version becomes to him. Women are not inspired by perfection or stability alone. They are drawn to direction, courage, and emotional strength under pressure. When a man feels too safe, he stops moving with purpose, and that stillness slowly replaces attraction with predictability. What once felt like confidence begins to feel like stagnation.